a former AP bureau-in-chief in Romania. Now we move on to North America. The U.S. Supreme Court has declined to hear Ghislaine Maxwell's bid to overturn her conviction in the Jeffrey Epstein case. Maxwell is a British socialite and Epstein's former girlfriend who is serving a 20-year prison sentence after being found guilty in 2021 by a jury in New York on charges including sex trafficking of a minor. Maxwell's lawyers contend that her conviction is invalid because a non-prosecution and plea agreement that federal prosecutors made with Epstein in Florida in 2007 also shielded his associates and should have barred her criminal prosecution in New York. She was arrested in 2020 and convicted the following year after being accused by federal prosecutors of recruiting and grooming girls with Epstein between 1994 to 2004. Now we move on to Middle East. Israel has deported 171 activists today, including Swedish climate campaigner Greta Thunberg. After detaining them during an aid flotilla heading to Gaza, the Foreign Ministry has confirmed the deportation in a post on X, describing the group as provocateurs from the Samud flotilla. The deportees, citizens of Greece, Italy, France, the United States, and other countries, were sent to Greece and Slovakia. The activists had been detained for attempting to break Israel's blockade on Gaza by delivering aid. Meanwhile, Israel has accused the flotilla of being a political mission supporting Hamas. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Ross Feingold. He's a political analyst, joins us live from Taipei. Thank you, Ross, for joining us again. Now, looking back at the flotilla, what do you think, what has it achieved, and what was it there to accomplish, and what they could not accomplish?
What they were trying to achieve and accomplish was fairly clear. It really wasn't about delivering aid, because the amount of aid that they were carrying with them was insubstantial. But it was to bring more publicity to the situation faced by civilians in Gaza. We know the civilians are suffering under a war that their own leadership, Hamas, began nearly 2 years ago. But as we often talk about here, these kinds of actions, recognizing the Palestinian state, flotilla, international criticism, it clearly doesn't change how Prime Minister Netanyahu is conducting the war. So even the major action of the past few days and weeks, which is moving into Gaza City, that's not going to be affected by this flotilla or the detention of the participants. So if you ask what didn't they achieve, they didn't really change much, because the international criticism is going to keep coming, and Israel is largely going to ignore that. Israel is participating in the President Trump-led peace initiative, but these actions are more criticism from the governments or the media where the participants come from. None of that's really going to change anything on the ground.
And Ross, do you think that we will see more of these flotillas going towards Gaza to challenge Israel?
That's a really interesting question. It's certainly possible that more activists would be motivated to try that, but again, Israel is not going to change its policies. They'll continue to stop such flotillas, and they'll continue to detain the participants. And frankly, if it happens with greater frequency, I wouldn't be surprised if instead of just simply deporting the participants, that Israel would take additional legal action, such as potentially bringing criminal charges against the participants, which could result in a longer stay in an Israeli jail. So there's certainly some downside for the participants. It's dangerous, coming up against a navy, trying to enter a war zone. Those are very dangerous actions.
And Ross, have you heard anything about the treatment that these flotillas activists received while they were in Israel?
There's been a lot of discussion about that in the past few hours as some of the participants were detained and then subsequently released, but they're not taken to a hotel. They're taken to a detention facility. It's not going to be pleasant, but that's part of the risk that they knew about when they decided to participate in this activity, knowing very well that they were going to be caught by the Israeli Navy and they were going to be detained in Israel until they were deported. So they really shouldn't have much expectations that it's going to be a pleasant experience.
Thank you very much, Ross, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now we move on to North America. U.S. President